When you become too strong for a narcissist's manipulation, they will often react with anger, frustration, and a profound sense of betrayal. Narcissists rely on the ability to control the people around them, feeding off the energy, admiration, and sometimes even the emotional turmoil they create in others. The realization that their power is slipping away can be a jarring experience for them. For a narcissist, losing control is not just about losing a person in their life. It is an existential crisis that challenges their entire worldview and their sense of self-importance. The narcissist's identity is built around the idea that they are superior, untouchable, and in control. When you break free from their manipulation, it's as if their carefully constructed reality begins to crumble. At first, they may react with confusion or disbelief. Narcissists are often so self-absorbed that they can't fathom why someone would no longer want to be a part of their emotional game. They may try to convince you that you are overreacting, that you are being unreasonable or overly sensitive. They may twist your actions to make you feel like you're the one causing the problem, implying that your resistance to their manipulation is something that needs to be fixed. This is a classic narcissistic response, deflecting blame and trying to make the victim question their own judgment. They believe that if they can make you doubt your perception, they can regain control over you. In these moments, they may use gaslighting tactics, making you feel like you are the one who is out of line for standing up for yourself. However, as their attempts to regain control become more desperate and ineffective, their frustration will grow. A narcissist's sense of power is tied directly to the ability to manipulate others. And when they realize that they can no longer influence you, their sense of superiority starts to erode. Narcissists are profoundly insecure beneath their facade of confidence. And when their manipulation no longer works, they feel exposed. The mask that they have so carefully curated begins to crack, revealing their vulnerability and fear. This can lead them to lash out in anger, either directed at you or at the world in general, as a way to reassert their control. Their anger may be disproportionate to the situation, as it is not really about you or your actions. It's about their need to feel powerful and in control. At this point, the narcissist's behavior often becomes more aggressive, and their attempts to undermine your confidence can take on a more overtly hostile tone. They might belittle you, insult you, or criticize your choices in an attempt to provoke an emotional reaction. They may try to isolate you from friends or family, making you feel as though you are unworthy of love or support. This is their way of trying to regain dominance by breaking down your emotional defenses. Narcissists believe that if they can make you feel small, vulnerable, or dependent on them again, they can reestablish their power. In some cases, they might resort to threats or intimidation. If the narcissist feels that they are losing control of the relationship, they might attempt to use fear as a tool to manipulate you back into submission. They might threaten to expose personal information, spread rumors, or even try to make you feel guilty about leaving them behind. They will try to make you fear the consequences of breaking away, manipulating your emotions to ensure that you feel trapped. Narcissists often use these tactics because they know that emotional vulnerability is one of the most powerful tools they have at their disposal. If they can make you fear losing the relationship or facing backlash, they believe that you will return to them and submit to their control. Another tactic that the narcissist might employ is playing the victim. When they realize their influence is waning, they may try to flip the narrative and make it seem as though they are the ones being hurt or betrayed. They will paint themselves as the innocent party and accuse you of being selfish, ungrateful, or cruel for standing up for yourself. This is often a calculated move to manipulate your sense of guilt, making you feel like you owe them something, or that you should feel sorry for them. Narcissists are skilled at creating false narratives that put them in the position of the wounded party, and they use these tactics to gain sympathy and reestablish control. In more extreme cases, when a narcissist feels that their grip on you is completely slipping, they might discard you entirely. This is a strategy they use to protect their own fragile self-image. If they can't control you or keep you in their orbit, they might abandon you, often in a cold and callous manner. They may try to move on quickly, finding someone new to manipulate and validate their sense of superiority. This sudden abandonment can feel jarring, but it is important to remember that it is not personal. For a narcissist, people are often just tools to fulfill their needs, and when they can no longer use you in the way they want, they dispose of you with little regard for your feelings. They may even try to make you feel like You're the one who should be grateful for their presence in your life, flipping the narrative once again to maintain a sense of control. The moment you stop being a source of validation and emotional manipulation, the narcissist's true nature becomes more apparent. They reveal themselves as someone who is deeply insecure, whose sense of worth is entirely dependent on the ability to control and manipulate others. Their reaction to losing control is often a mix of fear, anger, and desperation. The more they feel their power slipping away, the more they will try to regain it, sometimes in increasingly erratic and harmful ways. Understanding this dynamic is crucial to recognizing the patterns in the relationship and knowing when to step away and protect your own emotional well-being. While the narcissist reaction may be intense, it is ultimately a reflection of their need to maintain dominance, and it has nothing to do with your worth or ability to stand up for yourself. The reaction of a narcissist when they realize that their control over you is slipping away is often more revealing than any words they might say. Narcissists, by nature, are driven by their need to feel superior and in control. When this control is challenged or diminished, it often triggers a reaction that can be both intense and revealing. The narcissist's reaction can take many forms, but all of them stem from a deep fear of being exposed as weak, inadequate, or unworthy of admiration. The moment they realize you are no longer under their emotional sway, they face the reality that their carefully constructed image of power and invulnerability is threatened. In many cases, the narcissist will initially react with confusion. They are so accustomed to having control over those around them that when their influence starts to fade, they cannot immediately understand why it is happening. Their initial response might be to question your behavior, trying to regain the upper hand by reasserting their dominance through familiar tactics, manipulation, gaslighting, or even flattery. However, these strategies may no longer have the same effect. The more they try to regain control, the more they reveal their own insecurity. Their usual strategies begin to fall flat because they are no longer effective against someone who has grown stronger and more resilient. In this moment, the narcissist is forced to confront a reality that is uncomfortable for them. They are not as powerful as they thought. As their attempts to manipulate and control become less effective, the narcissist may escalate their behavior. This can manifest in several different ways, from passive-aggressive behavior to more overtly aggressive tactics. They may attempt to provoke an emotional reaction from you, pushing your buttons in an effort to make you feel guilty or insecure. The narcissist may suddenly become more critical, making biting comments about your choices, your appearance, or your behavior. They want to undermine your confidence and force you back into a position where they have influence over you. Their goal is to create an emotional reaction, either anger, fear, guilt, or sadness, that restores their sense of power. The more they fail to elicit the desired response from you, the more desperate they become to regain control. At the same time, the narcissist may begin to use manipulation in more covert ways. They might try to create division between you and others in your life, spreading rumors or making false claims to tarnish your reputation. This is another tactic to isolate you and make you more reliant on them for validation and support. If the narcissist sees that their usual methods of manipulation are no longer working, they may resort to these more underhanded approaches in an attempt to regain the upper hand. The narcissist often believes that they are entitled to control, and when this is threatened, they may stop at nothing to restore the balance of power in their favor. One of the more dangerous aspects of a narcissist's reaction is their tendency to shift the blame. Narcissists are notorious for refusing to take responsibility for their actions or for any harm they may have caused. Instead of reflecting on why their behavior is no longer working or examining the flaws in their approach, they will often project their insecurities onto you. They may accuse you of being too sensitive, too needy, or too selfish for no longer tolerating their behavior. They may turn the situation around and make you feel as though you are the one causing the problems, all in an effort to deflect attention from their own shortcomings. This can be confusing and distressing, especially if you are still learning to assert yourself and set boundaries. Another aspect of the narcissist's reaction is their deep need for validation. When they sense that they are losing control over you, they may begin seeking validation from others, using external sources to bolster their self-esteem. They may seek out new people to admire them or inflate their ego in any way they can. This is often done as a way to soothe the hurt that comes with losing control and to reassure themselves that they are still superior. The narcissist might exaggerate their achievements, engage in self-promotion, or surround themselves with people who will provide them with the validation they crave. However, these attempts to regain their sense of importance usually fail to fill the emptiness they feel inside. They may appear confident on the outside, but beneath the surface, they are grappling with feelings of inadequacy and vulnerability. In some cases, when a narcissist realizes they can no longer control you, they may attempt to discard you altogether. They may abandon the relationship or distance themselves from you, seeing you as a lost cause or a threat to their carefully constructed reality. This is especially true if the narcissist feels exposed or if their ego is severely damaged by the loss of control. The narcissist will often act as though they have moved on, but this is usually a defense mechanism to protect their fragile, self-imposed image. Their ability to control you has been diminished, so they may seek to find someone else they can manipulate. The narcissist's reaction may appear cold, calculated, and even heartless, but it is ultimately driven by their need to preserve their image and maintain control over their environment. Ultimately, the narcissist's reaction to the realization that you are too strong for their manipulation is a complex mix of fear, insecurity, and desperation. They are driven by a need for power and control, and when this is threatened, their true nature begins to surface. They may react with confusion, anger, blame, or withdrawal, but regardless of the method, it is always an attempt to regain the upper hand and restore their sense of superiority. The most telling part of their reaction is that it reveals just how fragile their sense of self truly is. Behind the mask of arrogance and control lies a person who is terrified of losing their ability to manipulate and dominate. It is in this moment, when the narcissist realizes that their power over you is gone, that you see them for what they truly are. Not the confident, all-powerful figure they project, but someone who is deeply insecure and desperate to maintain a facade of control. Narcissists prey on emotional vulnerability, and understanding this truth is vital to navigating relationships with them. At the heart of narcissistic behavior lies a deep-seated need to exploit the weaknesses or vulnerabilities of others. Narcissists, whether consciously or unconsciously, thrive on the emotional responses of others. And they are adept at identifying and exploiting the insecurities and weaknesses of those around them. They will use these vulnerabilities as leverage, turning them into tools to control, manipulate, and dominate. This dynamic is often subtle, working behind the scenes of interactions, and the victim may not even realize how deeply they've been affected until much later. One of the narcissist's most potent tools in controlling others is their ability to identify your emotional triggers. They observe you carefully, learning your fears, insecurities, desires, and past traumas. They exploit this knowledge by subtly pushing your emotional buttons, creating situations where they can manipulate your feelings and reactions to suit their needs. Narcissists understand that when we feel vulnerable or insecure, we are more likely to behave in ways that serve their interests. They can make us feel guilty, ashamed, or undeserving of love and attention, making it easier for them to take control. This emotional manipulation typically starts small, almost imperceptibly. A narcissist might give you a compliment, but one that is subtly backhanded, making you feel good about yourself while also planting seeds of doubt. For example, they might say, "You're really beautiful for someone who isn't my type." At first, this may seem like a harmless comment, but over time, it chips away at your self-esteem, causing you to question your worth. This is exactly what the narcissist wants. They want to control how you view yourself, because if they can make you question your self-worth, they gain the power to control your emotions and reactions. As the relationship progresses, the narcissist will often escalate their emotional manipulation. They may switch between being overly affectionate and suddenly withdrawing, creating a cycle of emotional highs and lows. This keeps you on edge, unsure of where you stand, which creates a constant craving for the validation they provide. They know that if they can make you feel emotionally dependent on them, they can maintain control. If you start to show signs of independence or strength, the narcissist will work even harder to reassert their dominance. They may use guilt-tripping, belittling remarks, or even the silent treatment to make you feel that your independence is a threat to them, that you are somehow wrong for wanting to stand on your own. Another way narcissists prey on emotional vulnerability is through their use of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological manipulation tactic where the narcissist distorts reality to make you question your perception of events. They might deny things they said or did, or twist your words to make it seem like you're overreacting or being overly sensitive. Over time, this causes you to doubt your own memory, judgment, and sanity, leaving you emotionally unmoored. Narcissists know that by confusing and destabilizing your sense of reality, they can make you more reliant on them for clarity and guidance. They prey on the natural human desire for validation and the need to feel grounded in reality, twisting those needs to serve their agenda. One of the most damaging aspects of narcissistic behavior is their lack of empathy. Narcissists do not understand or care about the emotional pain they inflict on others. They see people as tools to be used for their benefit, and they are willing to exploit the emotional vulnerabilities of others without remorse. If you show any sign of emotional distress or weakness, the narcissist may use it against you, making you feel weak, needy, or unworthy of love and attention. They will minimize your feelings, invalidate your experiences, or shift the focus back to themselves, making it impossible for you to receive the support or empathy you need. In relationships with narcissists, this pattern of emotional manipulation can feel like a never-ending cycle. You may find yourself constantly trying to please them, seeking their approval, and striving to meet their impossible expectations. Every time you begin to stand up for yourself or express your needs, they may accuse you of being selfish or ungrateful, making you feel guilty for wanting basic respect or understanding. Over time, this undermines your self-worth and causes you to doubt your own feelings and desires. The narcissist's goal is to keep you in a state of emotional vulnerability, always seeking their validation while simultaneously making you feel unworthy of it. Breaking free from this cycle requires recognizing the patterns of emotional manipulation and understanding that your vulnerabilities are not weaknesses to be exploited, but aspects of your humanity that deserve respect and protection. Recognizing the narcissist's manipulation is the first step in taking back control over your emotional well-being. It means refusing to allow them to define your worth, to shape your identity, or to dictate how you feel about yourself. You must learn to set boundaries, to trust your own feelings and perceptions, and to protect your emotional landscape from the toxic influence of the narcissist. It means acknowledging that you are worthy of love, respect, and compassion, and that your emotions are valid, no matter how much the narcissist tries to convince you otherwise. The first step in breaking free from the emotional control of a narcissist is recognizing that their manipulation is rooted in a deep insecurity. They prey on your vulnerabilities because they themselves are emotionally immature and unable to deal with their own weaknesses. In essence, they try to control others in order to avoid confronting their own inner turmoil. This awareness helps you detach from the emotional hold they have on you and realize that their actions are not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their need to maintain control. The moment you understand this, you begin to reclaim your emotional power and stop letting the narcissist dictate how you should feel about yourself. Recognizing your own power is the first step to freedom. In the context of dealing with narcissists, this recognition can be revolutionary. Often we are conditioned by society, by our upbringing, and by our interactions with others to doubt our own strength. We are taught to be self-critical, to question our worth, and to place the opinions and validation of others on a pedestal. In relationships with narcissists, this tendency is magnified as they work relentlessly to manipulate our sense of self-worth. They thrive on making us feel small, inferior, or incapable, which creates an environment in which their control feels natural and unquestioned. However, the moment you recognize your own power, everything changes. This recognition does not happen instantly. It is the culmination of self-reflection, growth, and a shift in perspective. It begins with understanding that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's approval. It starts with the realization that you have inherent value that is not subject to the whims or opinions of another person. Narcissists have a way of convincing us that we need them, that without their attention, validation, or approval, we are nothing. They craft an environment where we believe our identity is tied to their perception of us. And they work tirelessly to maintain that hold. But when you come to understand your own power, you realize that their influence is based on a lie. You are not what they say you are. You are not defined by their manipulation or their attempt to control your emotions. Your worth is not negotiable, and it is not up for debate. Recognizing your own power is about reclaiming your autonomy. It's about knowing that you have the ability to make decisions that are aligned with your values, your needs, and your boundaries. The narcissist's goal is to destabilize your sense of self so that you become dependent on them. They want you to question your decisions, your desires, and your reality so that you are always seeking their approval or validation. However, when you begin to see through this manipulation, you stop seeking external sources of approval. You stop doubting your ability to make sound decisions and start trusting your intuition and judgment. You understand that you have the inner resources to handle challenges and obstacles on your own terms, and that the approval of others, especially a narcissist, is irrelevant to your self-worth. This journey of self-empowerment often begins with establishing boundaries. Narcissists do not respect boundaries because they view them as obstacles to their control. They will test, push, and try to cross these boundaries to maintain their dominance. But when you recognize your own strength, you no longer allow them to cross these lines. You learn to assert yourself, to say no when needed, and to stand firm in your decisions, even if it means facing resistance or conflict. This process can be uncomfortable at first because narcissists have a way of making us feel guilty or wrong for standing up for ourselves. But the more you practice asserting your boundaries, the stronger you become in your resolve. You learn that it is not only okay to put yourself first, but it is necessary for your mental and emotional well-being. As you continue to recognize and embrace your own power, you also begin to realize that you are not responsible for the narcissist's emotions or behavior. Narcissists often try to guilt trip you into feeling responsible for their happiness, well-being, or mood. They try to make you feel as though their emotional state is something you must manage. That if they are upset, it is because of something you did or didn't do. But when you understand your own power, you realize that their emotional state is their responsibility, not yours. You understand that you are not the cause of their dysfunction, nor are you required to fix it. This shift in perspective allows you to detach from the emotional chaos that narcissists often create and focus on your own well-being. Another important aspect of recognizing your power is understanding that you are worthy of respect, love, and kindness, not just from others, but from yourself. Narcissists often prey on our insecurities, using our vulnerabilities to control and manipulate us. They exploit our desire for affection and recognition, leading us to believe that we are not good enough unless we conform to their expectations. But when you recognize your own worth, you stop allowing anyone to treat you with disrespect. You understand that you deserve to be treated with dignity, regardless of what others think or say. You no longer tolerate mistreatment, and you no longer allow others to dictate how you should feel about yourself. The process of recognizing your power also involves recognizing your capacity to change and grow. Narcissists may try to trap you in a static narrative, telling you who you are and what you are capable of. They may try to label you as weak, unworthy, or incapable, and in doing so, they create a narrative that you are powerless to change. But when you recognize your own strength, you realize that you are not bound by their labels or their perceptions of you. You are constantly evolving, learning, and growing, and your past mistakes or limitations do not define you. You have the ability to shape your future and to create the life you want, free from the constraints of the narcissist's influence. This recognition of your power is not about arrogance or superiority over others. It's about understanding your intrinsic value and the ability to live authentically without being influenced or controlled by external forces. It's about knowing that you have the strength to navigate life's challenges on your own terms and that you are worthy of respect, love, and happiness. It is a deeply empowering realization, one that shifts your relationship with yourself and with others, especially those who would seek to control or manipulate you. When you recognize your own power, you are no longer at the mercy of others. You are free to live your life according to your own values, your own desires, and your own truth. The moment you become too strong for their manipulation is a turning point in the dynamics between you and the narcissist. In a way, it's a moment of reckoning, both for you and for them. It's when the balance of power shifts, and the narcissist, who once had the upper hand, begins to realize that they no longer have the influence over you that they once did. At this moment, something profound happens, not just in the relationship itself, but in the way both parties perceive themselves and each other. The narcissist's entire existence is built around control and dominance. They depend on the idea that they can mold others to serve their needs, that they can remain the central figure in any interaction. When you become too strong, when you establish boundaries that they cannot easily cross, the structure they've relied on starts to crumble. The narcissist begins to see that they no longer have access to the same emotional leverage, no longer have the power to manipulate your emotions, and that's a dangerous realization for them. This moment is not something that happens overnight. It's a gradual buildup, often sparked by your own personal growth, self-awareness, and emotional resilience. Perhaps you've gone through a process of self-discovery where you start to recognize the ways in which the narcissist has been pulling the strings, consciously or unconsciously. Maybe you've learned to assert yourself more clearly, refusing to tolerate the subtle gaslighting, the emotional manipulation, the guilt trips, or the constant undermining. The first signs that you're becoming too strong are often seen in the subtle shifts in your behavior. You stop seeking validation from the narcissist. You no longer allow them to dominate the conversation or dictate your decisions, and you begin to make choices based on your own values and needs rather than out of a desire to please them. As you continue to grow stronger, your self-worth becomes less dependent on external validation, and this is precisely what threatens the narcissist. Their power over you stems from your need for their approval, their attention, or their control. When you stop needing them, when you stop being emotionally or mentally reliant on their presence or their opinion, you take away the very foundation upon which their manipulations are built. This shift forces them to reckon with the fact that they no longer hold the power in the relationship. They can no longer use their charm, their false promises, or their guilt-inducing tactics to bend you to their will. You've become immune to their attempts to undermine you, and this is when they begin to feel the full weight of your strength. This realization is deeply unsettling for the narcissist. Their entire identity is bound up in the idea that they are the center of attention, that they are the one in control. When they see that they no longer have the power to manipulate you or elicit an emotional reaction, they feel threatened in ways that they often cannot articulate. Their usual tactics of gaslighting or emotional blackmail lose their effectiveness. They might try to escalate their behavior, doubling down on their manipulation in an attempt to regain control, but the key difference is that you no longer react the way they expect. You don't fall into their traps. You don't give them the emotional responses they've grown accustomed to, and you don't allow their attempts at control to shake your sense of self. What's important to understand here is that this shift does not mean that the narcissist will simply accept defeat. Far from it. They are not accustomed to losing control, and they will not go down without a fight. However, the response to the situation will change. Instead of relying on their usual tactics of emotional manipulation, they might resort to more overt forms of aggression or passive aggression. They may try to provoke you into a reaction, knowing that if they can get you to lose your composure, they can reassert their dominance. They may make passive-aggressive remarks, try to guilt trip you, or engage in smear campaigns to turn others against you. The key here is that they are no longer working from the same playbook. They are trying to regain control through increasingly desperate measures because they know that the dynamic has shifted. For you, the process of becoming too strong for their manipulation is a sign of growth and self-empowerment. It means that you have reached a point where you no longer allow yourself to be controlled by someone else's need for dominance. You've gained the confidence to trust your own judgment, make decisions based on your own values, and refuse to be swayed by someone who seeks to diminish you. It's a reminder that the true strength lies not in overpowering others, but in maintaining your sense of self in the face of external pressure. When you are strong enough to see through the narcissist's manipulation and remain unaffected by it, you've moved into a place where you are no longer a pawn in their game. This is when they are forced to confront the reality that their power over you is gone, and they are left to either adjust to this new reality or continue to struggle to regain control in increasingly futile ways. The moment a narcissist realizes you're too strong is the moment you claim your independence from their emotional influence. You have become a force to be reckoned with, and they can no longer dictate your emotional or psychological. For you, it's an empowering experience, an affirmation of your own inner strength and your ability to stand firm in the face of manipulation. For the narcissist, it's a wake-up call, one that challenges everything they thought they knew about control and influence. It's a moment that reveals who you are and who they are, and it marks the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship. Or the end of it altogether. You know, there's a very peculiar moment in life, one that many of us will inevitably face, that is often overlooked. It's the moment when a narcissist, someone driven by their own inflated sense of self, realizes that you've become too strong, too independent, too anchored in your own truth. And when that moment arrives, it's revealing. It's like a turning point in the drama of human interaction. The narcissist, who once felt superior, now finds themselves standing in the shadow of your strength. And it's in that moment where you begin to see who they really are. Narcissists thrive on control and dominance. This dynamic is central to understanding the behavior of individuals with narcissistic tendencies. They are not just seeking admiration or validation, they are seeking power. For a narcissist, power is the currency that validates their very existence. Their sense of self-worth is inherently fragile, and so they compensate for this insecurity by cultivating an image of superiority. They manipulate, deceive, and charm their way through relationships, using these tools as a means of ensuring that they remain in control at all times. The narcissist's need for control is not just about maintaining influence over others, but also about protecting their fragile ego from the possibility of exposure or rejection. A narcissist often displays an inflated sense of their own importance. They believe that they are exceptional, deserving of special treatment, and that the world revolves around them. This view of themselves is not rooted in reality, but in a constructed persona that they have carefully crafted. They surround themselves with people who enable this illusion, people who either actively admire them or remain passive and allow them to maintain their sense of superiority. To maintain their dominance, they need a consistent flow of attention and validation, because without it, their facade begins to crumble. One of the key tools that narcissists use to maintain this sense of control is manipulation. They are skilled at exploiting the vulnerabilities of others to ensure that they remain in a position of power, whether through guilt, shame, or even emotional blackmail. Narcissists will employ tactics designed to destabilize those around them. They thrive in environments where they can play mind games, twisting situations to their advantage and making others question their own perceptions of reality. This manipulation serves as a way to keep others off balance, ensuring that the narcissist is the one with the upper hand. The narcissist's manipulative tactics can be subtle, and they often operate in the background of everyday interactions. They know how to play on people's emotions, how to make them feel inadequate, or how to induce a sense of dependence. For instance, they might provide just enough attention to make someone feel valued, but never enough to make them feel secure. This creates a dynamic where the other person is constantly seeking more validation, more approval, and more reassurance from the narcissist, which in turn feeds the narcissist's need for control. Over time, this can wear down the individual's confidence and make them more pliable, more susceptible to the narcissist's influence. But it's important to understand that this need for control is not just about manipulating others. It's also about controlling the narrative around themselves. Narcissists want to be seen in a certain light, and they will go to great lengths to maintain that image. They craft stories about themselves, exaggerate their accomplishments, and downplay their flaws. This carefully constructed persona becomes their armor, protecting them from any criticism or discomfort. The narcissist is often hypersensitive to any challenge to this image, and they react defensively when their sense of superiority is threatened. The narcissist's need for control can extend to every aspect of their life, including their relationships, their career, and their social circles. In their personal relationships, they often try to dominate the other person, either by creating a sense of dependency or by isolating them from other sources of support. The narcissist might subtly undermine the individual's confidence, making them doubt their own judgment and feel dependent on the narcissist for validation. In their professional life, they might try to assert authority over colleagues, take credit for others' work, or undermine those they see as a threat to their status. In their social life, they might manipulate how others perceive them by controlling the narrative, creating a persona that is larger than life and always in control. This constant need for control can be exhausting, not just for the narcissist, but also for those around them. The individuals in the narcissist's life often feel like they are walking on eggshells, constantly trying to meet the narcissist's demands or keep them satisfied. There is a constant tension, a sense of uncertainty, as the narcissist's mood can shift unpredictably, often based on how well they perceive themselves to be in control. They might lash out if they feel challenged or threatened, or they might withdraw entirely if they feel they are not being given the attention they believe they deserve.